Okay, we're going to get going here. It's 6:30. We just checked. Everybody's checked in. If you're in the right spot, you're here for college English, correct? Yes. All right, good. We're on the right track. My name's Andrea, and I thank you for coming tonight. Tonight is very important. I deal with families, individuals, small corporations, but mainly families every day. And finding a way to maximize Social Security is a big topic for us as boomers. Baby boomers, we bathe, right? We drank out of garden hoses. We sat in the back of a car without a seatbelt. Raise your hand if you also laid on the back of that window and pressed up again. That was me. Fall asleep on the hump, of the car because put a kid to sleep. But yet we survived. We survived Woodstock, Vietnam, a lot of things. It's the most powerful generation. If you look at it, right now we own the wealth of America. By wealth, more real estate than any general, more money in the bank than any other generation right now. How many of you, raise your hand, Facebooked it today? Yes, all right, good. We own Facebook. We took it over. Kids moved on. They went to Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, anything. Got to get away from mom and dad. Why do we go on Facebook? We can see our kids, our grandkids' photos. We communicate with people that we've lost touch with. We see the value. We use Facebook. It's amazing. Well, tonight, this is a subject that's near and dear to my heart that we've been doing this for over a year. I speak at the colleges, both up in Jacksonville, at Florida Community College, also for the Duval Public Library System. I'm with the Society of Financial Awareness. I'm a certified financial planner. That's a mouthful. All that means is you can sue me really easy, because I'm a fiduciary, which means I represent you. What I tell you is facts. I'm not a registered representative. I don't work for Prudential. I don't work for MetLife. I don't work for UBS or Merrill Lynch. I have in the past. I work for Merrill Lynch. I work for Smith Barney. Make fast money the old-fashioned way, right? But Wall Street's lied to us, and nobody at the Social Security Administration is going to tell you how to make these claiming strategies. They're very good at what they do, filling out forms, telling you how to do it. But if you ask about strategies, and where there's 81 common strategies, 567 calculations, they're not and they're allowed to give you any advice. How many people have called the Social Security office? All right, you already know the dilemma there. I was working with a woman this morning, and she was told she couldn't get spousal benefits. She was married, divorced for over 15 years. What she really didn't know was she'd have to wait to 66 because she had made so much money, but they didn't help her. They said, oh, you don't qualify. So she came in and said, Mr. Frank, I was here in your seminar, and this was just last Thursday night. You said I can get spousal benefits. How do I do it? I said, get a manager. Ask him what the spousal benefit is for 66. And then make your decisions. Find out what your husband is. Doesn't matter if he files or not. We're going to cover a lot tonight, and we're going to go fast. But first off, I want to show you my retirement plan. The folks I'm with here tonight, my wife, my lovely wife's the one who's in the white jacket. I always pick on her, just ask her. And anyhow, it says, honey, what is our retirement plan? For those in the front row, probably the only ones who can read the answer. They're chuckling. But if you read in the back, it says, if we take a late retirement and an early death, we'll just get by. Okay, we don't want to do that. We want to know about what Social Security has to offer us. It's the hottest topic because the election's coming up. We're going to talk about that. There's no party affiliations in this room. This is only about facts tonight. Facts because it's money on the table for you and your spouse. How much money's at stake? And you're going to find that we have found as little as $48,000 and as much as $400,000 for folks. Okay, got to give credit. You're here because of the Gunn Allstate agency. Some of you maybe would Allstate, some of you would State Farm, whatever. Robert Gunn has found it in his way to go ahead and pay for these seminars that there's no cost to you. I'm a speaker. I do not work for Allstate. I do have my insurance for Allstate. Robert and I are friends. Robert has been sponsoring this. He's been paying for it wherever we go, the cost, the food. And with it, he brings Miss Kylie, who's the lovely lady who was calling y'all, and whose voice sounds like, a nice young lady leaving you great messages on how to get here. Because this is an easy place to get to, but believe me, if you go to Florida Community College, you need a GPS to get to that classroom. Anyhow, so we thank Mr. Gunn and the Allstate agency for sponsoring us as a corporate sponsor. Okay, again, I am from Chicago, so I'm going to apologize up front. I talk fast. Slow me down. It's going to be like a fire hydrant tonight, because it's a lot of information, and we want to get out of here in 45 minutes to an hour with some questions at the end. I do not work for Social Security Administration. I do not work or affiliate or endorsed by any government agency. Social Security stands on their own. This is me. I am a certified financial planner. You can find me Facebook, whatever. It doesn't matter. Website, First Florida Retirement Services is my company. And what we do there is exactly what I told you. We work with folks of all sizes. There's no discrimination based on what we do. All right, we specialize in, number one, is Social Security maximization. If I help you find $48,000 to $400,000, we think it's important because it's part of your planning. You realize that as a couple, you probably have Social Security benefits, depending on how long you live, $1 million, $1.5 million, $2 million in benefits. But yet, nobody's talking about this. I'm going to talk about Uncle Ernie. Anybody named Ernie in here? If you, I apologize. Uncle Ernie's always going to tell you, take Social Security. I don't know, they're going broke. We're going to cover all that. But basically, this is the number one thing. Finding out more money through strategies, claiming strategies. 401k IRA rollovers, that's what we handle. We marry the two. You can't have them separate. The question is, should I take Social Security? Well, that depends. That's another lot of facts we're going to talk about. R&D planning strategies, we'll touch on that. And then, of course, retirement tax reduction. Okay, we're in college, we're having a little fun. I'm glad you got pens in your hands. There's a note page in there. Everybody's going to take a little quiz here. Very little. Short. Real quick. What I'd like you to do, pick a number between 1 and 10. Just write it down. All right, I'm watching your eyes. No cheating. No looking at your spouse. Pick your own number. Next thing, just double it. 6 is 12. You need help. 8 is 16. Okay, now add 8 to that number. There's a reason for this, folks. Now divide it by 2. And then I want you to subtract your original number. Okay? From there, you should have a number. And that number, we're going to change it to an alphanumeric number. For example, 1 is A, 2 is B, 3 is C, 4 D, 5 E, 5, and so on. So write down that letter. Now, we're changing the subject. We're going to geography. We're going to go across the ocean to Europe. In our mind, we still got that, right? We haven't lost it. No mild cognitive impairment yet. We're going. And we're looking at Europe. And we need a country that begins with that letter. So rack that brain. Think of a country that begins with that letter. Whatever letter you have. Just write it down. What's that? Whatever letter you had, convert it to the alphanumeric. So for example, if your number was 2, it's B. Okay? Now, once you write down that country, write down the second letter. And I want you to think of an animal. Think of an animal. Not a bird, an animal that starts with that letter. And write down that animal. Last thing I promise you, now that you have that animal, go ahead and write down the color of that animal. Don't be cheating. I see you staring. Okay. I deal in probabilities. More than likely, most of you got elephant, Denmark, and gray. Now there might be a few elks up here. I see some laughing, but if you got an elk, raise your hand. If you're one of those that use that other side of the brain. It's just probabilities. That's what we deal with. As a financial advisor, it's probabilities, it's predictions, it's forecasting. Weird? It's magic. I'm gonna float here next. Okay? All right. Yes. Okay, tonight's workshop, we're going to go over 4 subjects. The first one is the basics. For those of you who've been in the military or the government, you're used to this because it's acronyms. They use a lot of acronyms. You go to the government office, they're going to yell PIA, FRA, AMIE. We're going to discuss those. Second thing is, we're going to get the Social Security planning process, okay? How do I do it? Because I got to plan this. If I'm talking about $1 million, $1.5 million, and you're going to find out people ain't telling you about it, they're just going to say file, you need to know what you came here for. Number 3, switching strategies. That's probably the biggest thing why you're here tonight. Some of this will be brand new to you. Some of you might have heard a couple of them. Last thing is I'll show you a report. How to maximize your benefits with a couple. Okay. The basics. What are the biggest questions you hear today? All right. Will it go broke? Uncle Ernie says, hey, wow, that thing ain't going to last. It's going to go broke. Let's talk about that in a minute. How many people know how much money has gone into the trust for Social Security? Just take a guess. Any guess. $1 trillion. Good. 8 to be exact. How much do you think we've spent since 1935 when FDR put it in? 7. We're pretty good. It's one of the few government programs that took in more than has gone out. But yet, it's going to be the boxing, it's going to be the fight between these parties because they want to get us emotional to make a vote. We're going to talk about that. When some of you were in here looking, and I was up here fiddling around, you were looking at your green sheet benefits. You used to get those every year. Now they come out every 5 years. All right? And what it shows is the benefits. And in there, you should notice that it will deplete in 2000. It's been updated to 33 instead of 35. Then it says, then we'll only be able to pay 75 cents for 40 more years. That's not broke. That's math. Okay, let me tell you what the government can adjust it. We're going to talk about many ways, and I'll show you how they're going to adjust it. Let me tell you what is going broke. PBGC. Anybody had a company that shed their pension? Pension Benefit Guarantee Association. I deal with clients, pilots. They're promised $100,000. General retirement plan around $26,000. And who's paying for it? We are. Company goes into bankruptcy. They just shred their pension program on us as taxpayers. They emerge and they're out with the same day making profit. It's a crime. To me, it's a crime. A crime when you make a promise to somebody that you'll pay them X amount of dollars. And right now, Congress also approved to go ahead and allow them to cut pension plans. But it is what it is. It's the climate. They are scheduled to go broke in 8 years or cut it down to 50 cents in 8 years. All right? So, and there's not a lot of new pensions coming up paying more insurance into them. But in Social Security, what's one of the biggest battles among some of the parties? About immigration. Immigration law changes, you're going to have hundreds of thousands of new workers paying into Social Security. It's coming. It's going to happen. All right. This is not about what side to be on. It's about facts, about us, about our money, our entitlement to Social Security, because they're going to talk about it. 2 parties this morning came out. I don't know if you looked at Money Magazine or on the digital side, but it said one party wants to increase Social Security because pensions, companies shred them, and now people can't live on just Social Security. The other party said, no, we got to cut Social Security. We got to cut Social Security. So we're going to talk about facts tonight. We're going to look at it and see what they can do. This is basically, will it go broke? For us as baby boomers, it's not a big concern, but it is a big concern for the country because they will have to do something. But there's many ways they can change it and help it out. One last fact. 2008, everybody remember that nightmare? Okay. You pulled out your statement in October. You looked at the high of the market because that was to you, that's your money. You open up your Merrill Lynch statement and it said $10. Okay? All of a sudden, you looked at it, it was $4. 53% from peak to trough. $4 and some change. Not 35% that's advertised about averages. And we'll talk about averages. Averages are great in baseball. If you love baseball, averages are great. When it comes to finance, averages mean nothing. They mean nothing. It means your head's in the refrigerator at one temperature, your feet's in the oven at another temperature. The average temperature is good, but you're dead. That's what averages in finance mean. You're dead. So, I don't like averages in finance. It has nothing to do with you or me. It's a way to skew, to make a representation, to motivate you to make a decision. We don't make decisions on that. We don't want to make decisions on it. We want facts, so that's what we want to talk about. Okay. Can I file for benefits? Most of you in here were targeted. I confess. You're baby boomers. That's who I targeted. I bring you in. You received either a mail invitation or a Facebook that was manipulated to go to interest groups of that same age that I'm looking to speak to. People that it matters. Social Security decisions they're making. I got people in these seminars and workshops they've already made a decision, or they're going to be making a decision tomorrow. Some of them are a few years away, but it's so important because we're talking about lots of money here to save you money. So you need to have it. So most of you in here tonight have been born after 1937. You can file at the age of 62 or at the age of 70. Now, there is one other age you can file at, and that's 60 for survivor benefits. But survivor benefits means you lost a spouse, and we don't want that. Okay. Full retirement age. Here's the first acronym we're going to learn, FRA. What that is the age you hit full retirement. As the government says, full retirement age. That means you get 100% of a value, which they will later call, and I'll reveal it as PIA. But for the most part, some of us were born at different years than 43 to 54 here, because we have spouses of different age. I myself was born in 1959, so I'm a baby boomer, but yet my FRA is 66 and 10 months. For tonight's discussion, everybody's FRA, when I give examples, is 66. So if I say, what is FRA? You say, man, this is a good class. This is a good class. All right. So there it is over there. If you need any help with that, let me know. But you should know what your FRA is, because everything is computed off of FRA. Your benefits, your spouse's benefits, everything. Okay, next question. Well, how do they calculate it? Well, we start right away with the SSA.gov, because that's where you're going to go to find your earnings. If you see that green sheet that is in your folder, if you open it, you'll notice it has every year you work. There might be some zeros, there might be some dollar signs there. They take the top 35 numbers, and then, even if it's zeros, then they adjust it for inflation. Meaning whatever it was in 1977, if it was $30,000, $30,000 in 1977 is a lot higher today than $30,000 of today. Okay? Because they're going to adjust for COLA. We're going to talk about COLA. Then the next one is, well, they calculate those 35 years, they divide it by 35, they adjusted it for inflation, and they find out your next calculation. That's called your AIME. I'm going to show you an example for those of us who are visual. But AIME is your average index monthly earnings. It's not one you really need to know yet, because it doesn't get us to the bottom line of what am I going to get paid. But that's what we're going to figure out next. What am I going to get paid at FRA? You get your PIA. Like a lot right now, right? AIME, FRA, PIA. Here we go. Here's an example. If there's 3 bed points, the formula. One of the things I said in Congress can mess with, which they haven't yet, but they can adjust this as 90% of the first $826 of your average index monthly earnings. How they picked 826? I have no idea. Most of us would probably have picked 825, 850, an even number of some sort, right? But they're taking 90% of the first $826, and I'll show you this when we really get down to the dollar amount. 32% of the amount over 826 up to the amount of 4,980. They'll add that to 15% of everything above. And that, my friends, gives you your PIA. So here's what it looks like. If your average monthly index earnings were $6,500, and believe me, you need to check those dollars. Some of you guys, folks, men or women that were in the military, I have found that is messed up sometimes. If you were over, if you served abroad, sometimes the earnings are not included. You can correct it. It will affect your Social Security. Secondly, if you served as a veteran, not all, but you need to talk to Social Security, because some of you are entitled for another $150 to $200 in benefits for Social Security. Now let's get back to our total. So your average was $6,500. That's not bad. But we're only going to take 90% of the same $826 for everybody. So the first calculation is $743. We apply the second one, comes out to $1,300. 15% of everything above, that's $228. So our PIA, what shows up on your statement, what you would get at FRA, full retirement age, would be $2,300. Now you don't have to do these calculations, but you should know how they are done. They are on the sheet. When you go to SSA.gov, it'll print it out and show you your 35 years. They don't show you the years adjusted for COLA, but they will show you what your PIA is. Okay, we talked about COLA, adjusting for it. Well, why is that important? Well, let's look back in the 80s. 14%, 14.3, right? Of course, CDs were like 16. And 11.2, so they were adjusting Social Security. But also, tragically, in 2008, what did Congress do? They said, a lot of us have parents that were on Social Security. They didn't get a raise. 2009, 0. 2010, 0. Is that another way Congress can do it? Absolutely. Here's where they're talking about dealing with COLA. Anybody ever heard of chain COLA? Chain cost of living? This already does not reflect food. Does this not reflect fuel costs, energy? It's not really a pure cost of living. Well, they want to even water it down more with a chain cost of living increase. Now, let me tell you about chain. Just think of a ball and a chain, and that's what it's intended to do, is slow down cost of living adjustments. So when we do calculations and we work with folks from helping them out get this report, we make sure that we only use about 1.5 or 1.75 as cost of living increases. But if you look, it used to be as high as almost 4%. The last few years, if you look at the last 20 years, it was 2.4, but more importantly, I look at the last 3. It's floating around 1.6, 1.7. Okay. Yes. Okay, how does COLA impact benefits? Well, here's an example. If you knew a mom or dad or somebody that started at $2,000 a month in 1990, today, they would have been receiving the bottom line, about $3,594. In fact, they'd be over $3,600. So is COLA important? Absolutely yes. Because it's trying to keep up with inflation in our retirement years. And that's just the example, okay? All right. Can I work to collect benefits? This is a great answer. Yes and no. Can I work to collect benefits? Yes, you can work. Can I collect the benefits? Well, it depends. Everything is subject to an earnings test. Between the ages of 62 and 66, prior to 66, the most you can make is $15,720. And I'll show you an example of what that means. But I ran into a gentleman. I was over and I rented out an RV for last Labor Day. And he asked me what I did, and I told him, and he told me his story. He said, nobody told me. He says, I went ahead at 62, I filed for Social Security. I'm working at the end of the year, you make $50,000. You're paying it all back. Nobody told me. And Social Security said, don't worry about it. You can't write a check? We'll just take it out of all your future earnings. Thank you. Thanks for that. But when he turns 66, it goes up to $41,880. And now they only take back one for every 3 they can earn. Now, folks, there's some strategies here. What do they use for earned income for the test here? They only use your W-2 wages or 1099 earned income. All right, think about that. So if you got a pension, military pension, doesn't affect it. You got income coming in off your investments, doesn't affect it. Does not affect it. Passive income. It's only earned income for the test. Here's an example. The earnings test, example 1, there's my gentleman, $50,000. He was only supposed to make $15,700. He made over that, $34,000. His tax was $17,140. He had to pay back. Okay? Of course, whatever his Social Security was is what he had to pay back. That was the penalty. So we don't want to do that. So the question is, yes, you can work. But stay around that $15,700 mark with your investments. And take investments plus that. Now, next question. Will they be taxable? Yes. They were taxed when you took it out, right? Now they're going to tax again. The difference is here, for a married couple, have a little bit higher limits, greater than $32,000 is going to be 50%. Now there's some misunderstanding here. If you have an IRA, if you take $1 out, it's 100% taxable because it's never been taxed. Okay. Social Security, what they're going to do is say, well, how much money did you make? And now they include everything. Even muni bonds, which are non-taxable. They include all your income. They say, well, you made more than $44,000, so out of every dollar of Social Security, 85% is taxable. All right? Some of you can keep it down around 50%. If you're under $32,000 as a married couple, you don't pay any tax on Social Security. So that's will my tax be benefit? Will my benefits be taxable? RMDs, this is my favorite subject here. Nobody here is 70 yet, is there? I had 75 last month. Okay. He was a fantastic guy, too. Anyhow, required minimum distributions. That IRA you have, 401k, 457, 401A for you state employees, TSA for you government employees, Doesn't matter what it's called qualified money. It means you never pay tax on it, and the IRS is watching that money. They're making sure they watch out for you, because they want you to take out a required minimum distribution at the age of 70 and a half. You are required as a schedule to take that money out to be taxed. This does not include Roths. The beauty of the Roth is phenomenal. Well, let's talk about this. The IRS will assist you if you don't take the money out. They will help you. For example, if you have $500,000 in your IRA and you're the age of 80, you're supposed to take out 5.34%. If you're working with a financial advisor, he or she should be telling you that. If you do not take it, that $26,700, don't worry. IRS will take it out. They will keep 50% though. It's the worst penalty I've seen for our U.S. citizens. 50% of your distribution they take, but they tax you on the full amount. Even the amount they keep. So, do not miss an RMD. Make life simple. Once you get to that age and you're ready to retire in your 60s, consolidate your accounts. Get your IRAs, all your accounts together. ERISA is protected, is extended to your IRA. In other words, there's no reason not to roll over your plan to an IRA. Get it over there because you need to make sure. And it's taken, the picture's taken December 31st of the previous year. That's the amount. So that's another thing. If it was high and it went down, it doesn't matter. You pay it on what it was the prior year, December 31st. So in 2008, that was a nightmare. A lot of people had higher amounts that were still going down. It was still going down, so they had to pay on tax on money that they had lost. Updates. Maximization wages, maximum taxable wages. Anybody really remember what this is? This is where they say, this is another thing Congress can do. They keep raising it. You pay taxes. So in other words, if you make $80,000, it really doesn't matter. You're paying 100% of your money. You're paying tax, Social Security on it. For those who are over $118,000, they're not. If they make $200,000, they're only paying on $118,000. Okay, so it's a progressive tax. And can Congress change this? Yes. Were they battling it? Yes, you've heard the battle. Some people wanted taxed at $200,000 to increase the pool for Social Security. Then the argument is, well, there's only 1%. Well, then it shouldn't be a big deal. Only kidding. Just a financial advisor, just helping out. Common man. All right, maximum benefit amount. The maximum benefit right now is $2,663. The crying shame is that most married couples are under that. In fact, single workers are around $1,300. Because Uncle Ernie, they're going to go broke. Or they didn't do Social Security planning and understand something very important here we're going to discuss. Okay, before we do that, we got to give a shout out to Ida Fuller. Anybody know who Ida is? You know, I had somebody get real close to it last class. I do these every month, and I've been doing it over here. Ida is a hero. So you might as well mark that down. Ida is a secretary from Vermont. She was the first recipient of Social Security on a monthly payout. This fine lady put in $24.75 into Social Security, total. $24.75. She lived 100 years old. They paid her $22,888. Hey, this thing's inadequate. We got to get rid of it. It doesn't work. Of course it works. Anybody remember the original name of Social Security? The initial? It wasn't politically correct. What'd you say? Well, that's one of the benefits, yes. OASDI. Anybody know what that first two words were for? Old age. Wasn't politically correct. Old age survivor disability income. Hey, we got to change that. Social Security. So anyhow, Ida was the first one from Vermont. Now, who's Uncle Ernie? Uncle Ernie said this thing ain't going to work. He was a bellman from Cleveland, Ohio. No picking on Ohio, but enough said. All right? So, first person ever received money from Social Security, he was. He said, this thing ain't going to work. Give me my lump sum. He put in 5 cents, got 17 cents, 300% return. The only thing, he was only in Social Security for 1 day. So, I have fun with that trick question. It's Uncle Ernie. He retired after 1 day of being in Social Security. That's not bad. Get 5 cents, got back 17 cents. Pretty good. Okay. We're moving on to the next subject, Social Security planning. All right, as we get into Social Security planning, one of the things we want to talk about is basically determining what do we need. As folks coming here tonight to the workshop, one of the things that we offer is a 1-hour consultation on the planning. We do it, and there's no cost, no obligation. Motley Fool put out something this morning, or yesterday morning, I was reading it. It says 17 minutes video, and we'll teach you the secrets of the bonus of Social Security. So I said, I got to watch this. So I watched it, and at the end they said, okay, we'll give you this if you subscribe for 2 years to Motley Fool for advice for $99. You're going to get it for free. There's no obligation. I'm going to teach you about Social Security. I'm going to teach you about the differences in the 81 different strategies. There's more than that. Those are the common ones. And we'll help you out on what we can do. All right, the second thing is, people got to know when they think they want to retire. And then probably the most important thing, what's your shelf life? Walmart, shelf life. Estimated life expectancy. How long are we going to live? Now that is, I like to ask the couples individually without them looking at each other. They got to write it down, right? And then write down what you think your spouse is going to live. That's always a good thing. Okay, but it's really a lot lifestyle and DNA. Family members. Now understand, some of our family members' lifestyle was different. All right? And it affected their longevity. But I was with a gentleman the other day who was 75, and in his family, everybody was in the 90s. Still going. All right? So, we want to gather information. We want to get into this, when you will retire, and life expectancy. And then what we'll do is read the reports. More importantly, will we file now or file later? And we'll talk about that, switching strategies, why you're here, and how much money is at stake. The last thing we'll do is identify the income gaps. Okay, here's the income gaps, 2 of them for sure. First one is, unless you both retire the same day, there's an income gap. All right? If you're the same age, hitting Social Security, one might start before the other. One's working, one's not working. Second one is, I guarantee you, probability that you both won't die the same day. So Social Security drops one check, and the other one continues with the higher of the 2. So that's a second gap, and those are some of the things that we identify. How to close those gaps, future income needs. This is the planning process. We teach you how to sign on to the Social Security website. We actually try to do it on your own. It's pretty simple. Now, little asterisk here. If you subscribe, you got to know your driver's plate number. Why? One of the questions they ask is, you have a car with a license plate number and there's 4 license plates. You better go write it down and make sure it's the one that's registered in your name, not your spouse. Because if you don't get the 4 questions correct, they kick you out for 24 hours. I got a lot of heads now. It happens every time. What they do is they go into the credit bureau, the computer does, pulls questions. Might even be what high school you attended. How they got that, I don't know. And you have to answer those questions correctly in order to get into Social Security. Then you get to set up your own passwords. But if you are on credit protection with the credit bureau, not LifeLock or any of the ones other, but if you told the credit bureau, you called them or you wrote them and said, I want to freeze, you will not be able to get this report from Social Security unless you either A, release the credit freeze, or B, just call them up and ask for it in writing. They'll send it to you. You can't get it on the computer, but that's how good that credit freeze is. It will not allow even the government computer. And ASA can get in, but not Social Security. Okay? All right. Longer wait, more benefits. Everybody's heard that. But you really need to know the percentages. Because part of your decision of marrying your assets depends on this chart right here. Do you realize that at FRA is what age? 66. Oh, that was good. I got high school football. FRA is what age? 66. Ah, great. That if you take it at 62, they're going to give you an actuarial reduction. It's basically a haircut, 25%. Okay, let's think about this a minute. I got a $100,000 CD paying me, you said 4? No, 1%. Right? Anybody got 4? Let me know where it's at. I'll start sending everybody over there. Okay. So, the government, though, they're going to guarantee you a payment of 5% between 62 and 63. They're going to guarantee 6.7 the second year. They're going 25% total from age 62 to 66. All right. Your advisor said, no, file for Social Security. Let me keep making my 1.5% on managing your money. Don't take my money. File on Social Security. I'm going to challenge you to think differently. Turn it over. 8 years for certain between 62 and 70. That fact ain't going to change. There's only 8 years. How long I live, I'm not sure. How much money I have is certain. Unless you've been blessed with one of those pensions, or if anybody's in here from CSX, which I'm going to talk about a little later, you know, you got 8 years. This is where the planning really takes place. What dollars do I use? I want you to challenge thinking. Now, there is no exact answer, because everybody's situation is different. But that's 25%, and I know nobody in here should have a federally guaranteed 25% investment for 4 years. If you do, let me know where it's at. Because it gets even better. Between 66 to 70, it's 32%, 8% per year. Federally insured, guaranteed to grow. Somebody ought to be raising a question. If you got questions, raise your hand. Feel free. But here,
Government can change it.
what's that?
Government can change it.
Can they change it? It depends on where we're at in the thing. In other words, once you're taking it, most of the time it does not expect that. You're doing so totally different strategy there. That's called tax-free. We want to get to them tax-free, and there's other avenues to do that. So we cover that. I'm only caring about your life. Then if you want wealth transfer, we can discuss that, but let's make sure you meet your needs first. Okay? So we talk about it. So again, if you look at FRA being 66 to $2,000, if you go early, 25% discount. If you can wait to 70, it's 132%. Well, I wouldn't be worth much if that's all you could do. Because anybody can read a chart and eventually figure that one out. Here's what it really comes into, is the switching strategies. Because it sounds to me like, Frank, if we just both wait to 70, we maximize Social Security. No, that's not true. There's a strategy, there's several strategies in there, and there's a lot more rules. I mean, I'm going to talk, I can't do it all in one night, but you can maximize Social Security. And by doing that, we're going to give an example. So, both of you did no switching strategy, both of you wait to 70, that's called delayed retirement credits, you get your 132%. But the first one we're going to talk about is file and suspend. It's in your folder, it's in one of those colored diagrams, but basically what it says is this. I get to FRA, which is what age? Still with me, I haven't lost you. I go ahead and I suspend. I call up Social Security, or I go online, and I say, I'm filing, but I want to suspend my benefit. Do not pay me. Now that allows my spouse, my lovely wife, to go ahead and file now for spousal benefit. She can file on spousal benefit of 50% of mine, which doesn't affect me. A lot of people there's some misunderstanding that it affects. It doesn't. It's free money. It doesn't. And what happens to her count? 25%. It was growing between 62 and 66. Now between 66 and 70, it's 132% growth on hers. What do you think happens when she turns 70? She switches to hers. Okay? So you probably, and I'll show you that, well, we'll pick up probably close to $50,000 just with that one strategy. Okay, here's another one. File restricted. A little bit different. File for benefits at FRA, which is our age of 66. Payments are restricted. The amount is based on the remaining spouse's benefit, delayed retirement credits, 8% per year until age 70, 132%. I will show you a case study how that works. Okay? Most important thing here is in bold. One spouse has got to file. Probably the strategy that I personally will use. I will probably be filing restricted, taking my wife's benefit, allowing mine to grow. Okay? So, we'll talk about it. Here's an example. This is not a case study, but this is good old Tom and Nancy. 2 years difference in age. 66, 64. Tom's FRA benefit is $2,000. FRA is age 66. Nancy, she's 2 years younger. But when she hits FRA at 66, hers is $1,000. So, Tom says, hey, I'm going to file and suspend. I'm going to wait to age 70. I'm going to use some assets. I want it to grow because this is perpetual growth. It goes forever for the spouse, me, or the spouse for as long as I live. So he lets this grow, 132%. Nancy says, well, you know what? There's no sense in me filing for $1,000. I'll file for 50%. What's 50% of his? $1,000. So she receives $1,000 a month plus COLA, cost of living increase, switches to her own benefit, 132%. Well, what does that look like? Well, here's the actual math. Assuming it was 2% cost of living increase. Tom, the zeros, he filed suspended at 66. So his went from $2,000 a month, which is $24,000 a year, times 12, up to $33,600. That's a 132% increase. That's just time. And then you notice it goes 34, 34.9. That's because of 2% COLA. Now, Nancy, here's what you need. Why would she do spousal? Well, here's why. She got her same $1,000 a month, $12,000 first year, 12.2, 12.4, 12.7. Those are the cost of living 2%. But age 70, instead of going to 12.9, what happened? She went to hers because 12,000 times 132% plus the COLA was 16.8. Big jump, big jump. Almost $4,000 a year. Okay? Now, what's this free money? If she would have just waited to age 70, because here's 70, she would have got the 16.8 regardless, but how much would she have lost? Almost $50,000 of benefit was at stake using that strategy. People aren't aware. They just go in, they file. Yeah, here's what you do, folks. Sign here, sign here. If you make a mistake, how long can you go back to Social Security and correct it? Up to 1 year. All right? I don't advocate this. You want a 1 year free loan? File for Social Security. You got Social Security for 1 year. All they ask back for is the principal. Free loan. Give it back to them in 11 and a half months. Keep the interest. Got a for-sure deal? There you go. All right. That was a freebie. That wasn't even part of the 81 strategies. All right. Because you can, well, let me tell you what you're doing there. You're starting Social Security and then you're stopping. And then you're going to restart it another time. Not even one of the strategies we talked about. Just something you can do with Social Security. Okay. And that thing don't work. Let's get rid of it. Okay. Everything is different. There's 81 unique combinations for you. Everybody's different. Because we have different ages, we have different wages, we have different assets, we have different needs. Some got kids they want to worry about, some don't care, some said they launched them, some said they're still trying to launch them. It really doesn't matter. It's unique for you. And what you got to understand is your decision is, I got to marry it with my assets. Because that's the only way I'm going to make that decision. I'm going to marry it to my assets. You know, I've spoken to people of all walks of life. Today was just a lady, like I said earlier about the spousal benefit, not $1 in assets. She was married for 15 years, and they told her to file. So she's got her first payment. I said, hang on to it. Go down and see a manager and find out. Because if she waits 9 more months, she can file spousal benefit 50% on her husband, which she's hired. But they're not going to help you. They just said you don't qualify now because there is a rule. If yours is higher than the 50%, and because he's a government or he's a worker from the post office, she doesn't qualify to get the spousal benefit because hers is higher at this point. But they will allow her to go. Let's say, for example, her benefit was $900 on her own. It'll be $1,000 in September, but her husband's is only $700 at 50%. Well, they won't give her that $700 prior to age 66. They're going to mandate that she has to take the $900, and that's what happens if you're higher. Because let's talk about spousal benefit for a second. Why did spousal benefit come about? Let's go back to 1935. Fathers knows best, right? He comes home, of course it wasn't 1935, it was when I was a young kid, and leave at the Beaver. They all come home, they got the newspaper in the hand, they're always popping the newspaper, they sit down with a full suit at table at 5 o'clock, and the whole family's there to eat dinner. That happens everywhere here, right? Mom's in a full dress, full makeup, earrings, she's been cooking all day. Yeah, doesn't happen. Unfortunately today, obviously manufacturing's gone, kids, it's tough to find a job, so 2 people are working to make a living. But what FDR said was there was a need for a spousal benefit because mom stayed home and took care of the kids. Spousal benefit doesn't mean gender or female. It doesn't mean gender or male. It could be any spouse. So it's really unique. I really love these, when they're coming in and they're making about the same money, they can really maximize Social Security. Last thing on CSX, I mentioned CSX. Nobody works for the railroad? Nobody? Nobody wants to confess it, right? Best deal in the world. Why is it the best deal? Well, they don't pay Social Security. Okay, I don't know if that's the best deal, but their program's better. They actually make, probably after their 25 years to 30 years, their Social Security is close to $3,000 a month or higher. But their spouse is guaranteed 50%, whatever they get. That's still not the best part of the deal. Here's what they do. Don't get married. Go to CSX and find your spouse. Because if you marry somebody from CSX, you get their 50% in addition to your 100. And she gets your 50 in addition to her 100. You double dip. Now don't go running out changing your strategies. But, fantastic. Well, I don't hear any political group saying let's cancel that. No. Actually, it's funded correctly. It's a crime when companies don't fund what they promise to employees. That's who the real crime.
Does your money grow until that 62 or FRA, whatever?
Great question. It's always going up with what? COLA. Okay? And then every year from 62 to 66, it's going up at a prescribed percentage.
Oh, so
Okay.
just for that time between,
Right.
until you reach 62.
Right.
Okay.
But it is going up. There was another question over here. Yes, sir.
There's a lot of talk about the fair tax
Yes.
coming on. I'm hearing more and more of it. What happens to your, I think you're still going to deduct your Social Security somehow, but your IRA, that's pre-tax dollars.
Yes, sir.
Is there still going to, is there going to be any kind of tax on that, or is it just going to be as you spend it?
Your guess is good as mine what they do. You know, that'd be from your lips to God's ears that we go to a fair tax. But I don't see us not having to pay tax on money we've never paid tax on. I think that loophole didn't come and get it. Didn't come and get that tax money. Here's one that I haven't heard asked. What if I'm self-employed? All right? I'm self-employed. I'm 62 years old. All I can make is 15,700? Yeah. But I make 60,000. Pay your wife the difference. It's what you claim as earned income. Now, you folks that are W-2 employees can't do that. You can't go into Home Depot and say, hey, will you pay my wife 2/3 of my salary? You can't do that. But if you're 1099, or if you choose, and I challenge my folks, a lot of you are professional at what you do. I have folks changing jobs. I want you to be free. Think about this. Right now, forget what you think or dislike about the affordable health care system, but I pay $570, my wife knows, she cringes when I do, a month for Blue Cross Blue Shield that gives me the chance to go to Mayo. I have a client that has the same plan. He pays $75 a month because he's at $15,700 and he takes Social Security. His Social Security plus his $15,700 is almost equaling what he was making as a $30,000, $40,000 a year employee, and he's free to do what he wants. He goes in shorts to Home Depot, he's happy as can be, he's whistling, his wife's happy, he's happy, the health care is for. Folks, I want you to think out of the box because, you know, for those of you who are working with financial advisors, we try to razzle and dazzle you with graphs and charts. And I want you to get off this rate of return stuff. Rate of returns mean nothing. The three phases of life are this. You accumulated money. Rate of return was important because you weren't taking the money. You were letting it go. So when the advisor said in 2001, don't worry about it. Let it sit. It'll come back. When the advisor said in 2009 and 2008, don't worry about it. Let it sit. It'll come back. I was one of those advisors. Good thing I was on the first floor of Smith Barney in Ponte Vedra because there was guys that had committed suicide. It was a tough time. The Dow went down to 6,200. We can't do that as baby boomers in retirement because we don't have time to wait. We can't wait on an 80-year return. 80-year return of the S&P is 8-point-something%. We do not have 80 years. You have 10 years. You have 20. Some of us are going to be blessed at 30 or 40. The next best 10 years are from tomorrow for the next 10 years. So you have to make decisions based on the second stage of life. First was accumulation. Second is distribution of your assets. You need to be thinking of distribution of yield. What percent am I going to live on off my assets? And I'll challenge you to say, look at guarantees. Don't go on probabilities. You know that GE refrigerator? Hey, it worked when we sold it. I hope it continues. No, you can't afford that because I'm going to show you an example a little bit later. It says this. If you have $1 million, and if you take 5%, and I'm your financial advisor, Real Lynch, and if we're averaging 6, we should be okay, right? Let's see. I got $1 million. I'm going to average 6, and I'm only going to take 5. Yeah, that sounds sense. I'm going to tell you it's not. Because it's all based on sequence of returns. If you have bad years in the beginning, you're in trouble. And I'll show you, I got a graph on that. Mr. Green and Mr. Blue. There is no guarantee. So what can you do? Well, that's one of the things we talk about when we're together, marrying assets, because we're going to talk about guaranteed distribution of money back to you. Capital preservation, capital utilization, the two different strategies. All right. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I'm a widow. I'm a second wife.
Okay.
So I'm drawing two Social Security at the lowest. I'm thinking to turn 66.
Okay.
Can I draw two Social Security and mine at half?
You only get one. You get the highest of any of the options available to you. They will only give you one. All right. But if you have any more questions, we'll help you. You make sure you see Kylie in the back and set up an appointment, because I'll be glad to make some calls with you and help you on what you're looking at. Because there are some strategies still. How long were you married? I don't know when the unfortunate passing of the spouse. But sometimes at 66, retirement, it's like disability. If anybody's been on disability, it gradually goes up. But what they did is they targeted you're going to go into the retirement pool at 66. Right now you're in the disability pool. It really won't change. Your payment at 66 is going to be going up at COLA, but now you're defined as a retiree. You're no longer disabled under the Social Security Disability Act. So I'll let that go at that. Any great questions? Thank you. Any more? Yes, sir.
I'm 62, my wife's 57. Would she be able to take spousal benefits now or have to wait till she's 62?
Well, she's going to have to wait at least 62, and that's if she didn't make more than what your spousal benefit
No,
is.
we
then
made
it would
about
be
the same, but I'm
66.
saying, in other words, the one you have with the alternative where I suspend mine. You know.
These are great questions. Let me do a customized report for you. Make sure you see Miss Kylie.
All right.
Okay? But you're on it. You're on it. There's a strategy there for you. Any other? Yes.
The hardest part, I just became a widow. Okay? And there was so much age difference between me and my husband. Okay, so they might want to consider that too.
Mhm.
Age difference.
Absolutely.
It was 15 years for us.
Okay.
Okay, I am drawing Social Security.
Right.
And I had to lose one too.
Okay.
Like that.
Right. So that's the income gap.
Right. So when they consider that, there's the age difference too.
We do. That is big. The gentleman I was with today, or yesterday, was 75. His wife was 52. So, yeah, there's not, no, married a long time. All right, let's not go in there. Now you're making me funny. I'm thinking of Andrea. Remember her, what's her name, Medea? Sweet potato pie. Anybody know what, remember Medea about the sweet potato pie? What was it? Do you remember? She said, honey, get married. You know, I believe in marriage till death. If it doesn't work out, I got a recipe for a sweet potato pie. 3 months, he'll be dead. 3 months. I believe it. I love her, right? Okay. It's some sweet potato pie recipe. All right, that's how you get Social Security 462 down. All right. Real client case study. This is real. Now, the names aren't real and the pictures aren't, but the case is actually a good case. All right, Joe's 63 years old. His benefit, obviously, because they're odd numbers, is $21.75 at age 66. His life expectancy, he told us, would be 85. By the way, 62 years old, if you're in here now and you're married, 50% chance one of you is going to make it to 92. Yogi says, not Yogi Boo Boo, but Yogi Berra. Love Yogi Berra. The longer you live, the longer you're going to live. It's true. All right, you didn't jump into a pool with a wetback and try to clean it. Well, by the way, the wetback's electric. So, full electricity. Some people didn't get it. I just want to make sure. 401k plan at work. He had a 401k. Most of us do because government, I mean not government, but employers are taking away pensions. They want you to contribute to save for your retirement. So he had that. And then he had a Roth IRA brokerage account. Okay, Deborah, his older wife, is 2 years younger. Her FRA is 1145. She's expected to live to 91. Why do women outlive men? Only the good die young. All right? Billy Joe, right? Okay. All right, here we go. So, they wanted a monthly income in today's dollars of $5,400, which is a little over $60,000 a year. Those are the facts. That's the case study. That's what certified financial planners thrive on. We love case studies. You got to find a solution. So what are our options? Well, the first thing we're going to do is let's find out at the minimum. If they filed today, what are they guaranteed? Well, they're guaranteed about $1 million, almost $1,100,000. If they both went into Social Security when they're eligible to file right away, that's the least amount of money they'll get, based on what? Their life expectancy. Okay? All right. So then we go, well, let's find out what the most is. Let's put it in the computer, because there's no way I'm going to remember it. I run it through, and it's going to kick out. And it came out, and it said 1.462, almost $1.5 million. Wow. So what's at stake here? $300-something thousand. Okay? So we look at it, this is what it looks like. The asterisk is where they're at. It shows the minimum, 1.97. They filed Deborah, because Joe was 63, Deborah was 62. They file now, it's $1 million. That's over here. If they file with Joe suspending and Deborah filing restricted, they get $364,000 more in benefits. Wow, that's pretty good. Okay, but they had a concern. They had a concern that they want to retire in 3 years. They didn't want to wait. And that's common. But we got to know the minimum, we got to know the max, then we try to figure it, okay, what do you guys really want to do? That's what's unique. You know, because everybody has a different work environment. Everybody has a spouse that says, no, you're working 68. You know, whatever it is, it's fun. I love sitting there hearing it. But, so they said 3 years. So then we got to come up with a customized strategy, what's the best for them. And that's what this report is for. And that's why the 1 hour consultation, what I love to do is this is where you come in and you'll get that report. So, if they file immediately, we know what it was, $1.7 million. If they wait, it's $1.4 million. But we had one that they can do in 3 years, where Joe filed restricted instead of suspended. And Deborah filed immediately. Their benefits were 1.4, just a little shy of the 1.462. So that plan gave him 28% more income than what Uncle Ernie told him to do, or $312,000 real dollars, based on their life plan.
Can you put this on the internet?
Yeah. Income summary. I say no, but you never know every day. I'm sure somebody's trying to do it, you know, so I'll give it a disclaimer there. Not to my knowledge. Okay, so let's take a look at what that really looks like. Before planning, I'm going to show you this chart. All that blue is Social Security. The red is the gap. What is the gap? Well, they wanted to make $5,400 a month. They wanted to make $60,000 a year. So if you look at today's dollars, they're right over 60. And of course, if we look 20 years down the road, 25 years down the road, $60-something thousand is not the same because of just inflation, so 120. So we got some gaps. So what do? Well, we take a look at the, remember I said you got to mirror the assets? So we mirror the assets. We go over what do they really need. We go over what I talked about before, wealth transfer. Well, we got kids, we want to make sure we leave money. See, everybody's situation is different. Me and my wife, we ain't going to leave them anything. I'll leave them life insurance. All right? We're going to spend what we got. All right? It just depends. They can have the house and the payment. Legacy plan. What do you want to leave them? All right? And there's no right answer. There's no wrong answer. The only right answer is what you want. There's no judgment. Okay? So we go through that. I go over the chart, and I talk to him. I said, listen, remember I talked about Mr. Blue, Mr. Green? In other words, when is average really 6%, average really 6? Well, it really depends on sequential returns, because now I've got to mirror their assets. And their advisor said, well, just leave it in this portfolio. It's averaging 6.2. I had one just emailed me over the other day for a doctor I'm looking at. It was a $3 million portfolio, and I ain't picking on the company, but they're a big name company, and the advisor says it's got an average of last year of 6.2%. You want to take the risk. All right? Because here's where the risk is. The risk is, it should average 6%. Mr. Green, it did. He had 5% first year, 25, 22. You can't see that. Kylie, make a note. I want to make sure I print this and put it in their folder so they can follow along with me. I should have this printed. And you go all the way down, and then they look. If you take the summation of the numbers and you average it out, it's 6%. It worked out pretty good. $50,000 a year, of course, there's no cost of living increase. We didn't take any more in this illustration. All we want to do is compare it to the next column. But he still ended up at 1.6 after taking out. So he had a great, what we call capital preservation model. He had $1 million, he preserved it, lived on 5%, made 6. Mr. Blue, same guy. He retires on a different year but gets the same returns, except they're vice versa, reversed. Instead of 5% the first year, that's his last year, 25. We took the same numbers and reversed it because they equal 6%. Now, Mr. Blue, he retires in 2008. It wasn't interested. He might be retiring in 2016, 2017. What's the market been since 2008? It goes up the rest of our life, right? We got our, in fact, it's down 5% right now, I think. Okay? So, he went down, he had a couple down years in the beginning, then he started some good years, but his total's still 6%. But because of sequence of returns, meaning no guarantees other than a portfolio average is this, he went from $1 million, he ran out of money at 81 years of age. Can you afford to do that? Yes, sir.
There's another factor too, and that is who believes the government anymore? Everybody knows that the government says there's no inflation, and everybody knows that's BS. Just like when you buy a jar of mayonnaise, the jar is the same, but they're in the bottom, the curve that puts less in the bottom, it keeps going up. You know.
They got some smart parents around, and they really calculated that out.
But there is inflation. The government
Absolutely. That's absolutely. And I'll tell you, I'm not bashing our government. It's the best one still in the world. All right, I'm proud. It is the best one, but we need to know facts. That's what we're looking for, is facts. And the facts are 6% average doesn't mean nothing if we run out of money, because it depends what the return is. So I challenge you as retired, you need to be looking at principal guarantees. You need to be looking at distribution yields. I don't care what the rate of return is. What's the dividend? What's the yield? Where am I at? What can I make? So anyhow, this is how much it takes to get back. We talked about 2008. 2008 from peak to trough. Peak was the market was in September of 2008. It went down. From peak to trough, there was a loss of 53%. If you look at the mutual fund average of most fund families, they show that the S&P only lost 35. Well, they are including from January to December. That's not how we look at it. We look at our statements. You're going to walk in my office and say, well, here's where I was in September. Frank, what happened? Because you're down 53%. So that's peak to trough. Well, if we lose 50% on $100,000, it's going to take us 100% to get back to it. There's no way you can make that up as a baby boomer, because you can't take that kind of risk. Can you go ahead and just throw your money out at the high risk? Absolutely not. You've got to retain what we got. So that's just to get even. So then after we consulted, we married the assets together, what they have, we used whatever the best strategy were based on when they want to retire, and then we got Blue for most all of them. Still couldn't cover Joe when he left us at 85. But there is one way you can cover that, and they didn't care to do it. That's through life insurance. You know, you can add a policy to cover if there's going to be an income gap later at 83, 85 years of age. But, folks, this is a Social Security plan. It's not your advisor saying, take Social Security. Well, no, you're going lower. You know, keep paying me my 1.5. Hey, what's 6.2 minus 1.5? Because if they're promising you 6% return, or 6.5% return, how much do they get? 1.5 to manage. Y'all have portfolios with these major firms. I was there. I'm telling you, this is something you have to look at. Okay. I want to thank you for attending. We went about 6 minutes over with some questions, but that's fine. I love questions. I'll be up there for more questions. In your folder, there's a survey. In it, it'll ask you 3 things. First off, the first top is all about who you are. Yes, you get to know. I had a guy who gave me he just gave me the year he was born. We don't use birthdays, so I'm not going to send you a birthday card. But put out your birthday because it's part of Social Security planning. That's why. All right? When you come in, if you'd like a free report, this is a $400, $399 value. To get this full report, it's over 50 pages, and it will even cover Medicare and some of the things I didn't cover tonight. We will do it at no cost. It's one way that I obviously meet with folks, understand their situation, and sometimes trust develops, and sometimes the relationship is spawned from this. Okay? People go, why do you do this? There you go. My clients have been students in the past. That's how it goes. If they like it and they like what they're seeing, a lot of them become clients. You don't have to. Come in, get your report. If you want to stay with whoever you're with, that's fine. But come to get to meet us, get it. We'll give you also an income and distribution analysis. And thirdly, we'll talk about retirement rollover options if that's an issue for you. On the bottom, you'll rate your the speaker, 1 to 5, content 1 to 5, most common content. It was a lot of information, but it was fast, and it is. It's a lot of information, folks. But we're talking about $50,000 at risk here on the table, to as much as $300,000 or $400,000. I had a planner come through, a CPA. I haven't mentioned about it, but I didn't know why he come to see me. It was a CPA. He was the City of Orlando's Chief Financial Officer, and he had come to one of these things. He came to a workshop. He's sitting in my office. He gives me almost like a prepared governmental form. I mean, it is sharp. And he was sharp. And I'll just call him Joe for lack of a better name. I said, Joe, this looks good. Looks like I got everything ready. What can I do for you? He says, I'm here because of her. She needs to you need to validate this for her. And I looked, and his wife said that she had heard from another person that there's strategies out there and vice versa. So we ran it through the computer. I said, let's take a look at it. We still found a strategy, found $30,000 more. And you know what she did, obviously, when we got together and I showed her? She popped him in the arms, but I told you so. I told you so. So it doesn't matter who we are, what we are. Social Security is a unique animal that not a lot of people are talking about, but you need to be aware. It's over $1.5 million of your money in future benefits. The dates down there, if you have available dates in the next couple of weeks, put them down there, talk to Ms. Kiley on your way out, and Ms. Donald will help you with that. Other than that, any last questions? Yes, sir.
This class that you're teaching here, is it given in the future anywhere?
Yes, yes. In fact, talk with Ms. Kiley, she'll give you the future dates. We got them every month. All right, with that, folks, I'll be up here if you have any questions. Thank you for coming. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you. Oh, we do see evening appointments, 5:30, 6 o'clock. Oh, yeah, because we have people working. Yeah, that's all.